Welcome to the Story Learning Podcast, regular doses of language learning tips and motivation to help you become fluent in any language. With me, Olly Richards. For language programs, books, free resources, and much more, visit StoryLearning.com. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the I Will Teach You a Language podcast. Now, last year, around May time, I think it was May, I took a trip to the US and I passed through LA. And while I was there, I met up with some friends and also had a meetup. And we went to, oh man, I'm going to forget where this place was. It was somewhere in LA. I think it was somewhere it was like Melrose Place or something like that. Or was that from a TV series? I don't know. LA confuses me very, very badly. But anyway, we had a fantastic afternoon hanging out in the warm LA sunshine, drinking coffee. And then we went to this place called, what's that burger place? That famous burger place in LA? Something. Oh man, I'm forgetting everything. Anyway, you'll know what I mean if you're from LA. That famous burger place that everyone goes to. Anyway, we had a cool time hanging out, talking about languages. And while I was there, I met Dave and Anya, who were a fantastic couple from LA. Dave's from LA. I think Anya's originally from the Ukraine, and we talked a lot about languages and stuff like that. And so you can imagine my surprise when I was checking through my podcast questions the other day and I received something from them. So I'm going to answer that question today. Now, here goes.
Hey, how's it going, Ollie? It's Dave from LA.
And Anya from LA, but originally from Ukraine.
And we met you in LA probably like a year ago when you were here. And so, yeah, I've been learning Ukrainian and Russian for a few years now with my wife.
And yeah, he's good enough. I'm learning Spanish and English.
Oh, yeah, it's Spanish as well. Anyway, we thought it might be a fun question to talk about speaking another language while drinking with friends. Recently, we've met a lot of Ukrainians in the area, and, friends do when they get together, they have a few drinks. And I've noticed it's kind of a crapshoot with how well my language goes. Sometimes it feels like I'm super fluent and it's great. At least I think so. And sometimes it just feels like I'm just slurring and it's not, I'm forgetting words while drinking. So we just thought it'd be fun to see how you deal with drinking and speaking another language at the same time. All right. Thanks. Love the podcast.
Bye.
Hey guys, it is fantastic to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. It would be great to meet up again soon. I am planning to make it over to the States next year. I don't know where or when, but I would like to go at least once. And so I hope to be able to catch up with you guys and hear about your stories. I mean, it sounds like you guys are having a lot of fun for a start, so good job. And it's a great question that it comes up quite a bit, doesn't it? What is the effect of alcohol on language learning? And it's a really interesting question. I think the answer is not necessarily what you think it's going to be. And it depends very much on you and your relationship with the language and the experience you have actually speaking it. I mean, one of the major things, which it's going to sound silly, but I think it's actually more important than you think, is that relaxing, which is what alcohol typically helps you do, is a huge plus for all kinds of things related to languages. Often when we think, the problem that many language learners have is we just think too much. We're studying every day, and then when we finally get an opportunity to speak, our kind of brain goes into overdrive and we think, okay, what's the correct grammar structure, this, that, and the other. And the fact that we're thinking too much means we don't let ourselves just live. We don't let ourselves just use the language. Because let's remember what language is ultimately for. It's for communication. And here's the thing, when you are drinking with your friends, with your Ukrainian friends, which I think is it's so cool that you found Ukrainians there who you can hang out with and socialize with. Because here's the point, like when you're hanging out with them and you're drinking, the language doesn't matter anymore, really. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because the only reason you're using that language in the first place is to communicate with your friends, right? Now for you, yes, okay, you want to improve and you want to make it better. I get that. But they don't really care. For them, the novelty of hearing you speaking Ukrainian only happens the first couple of times they meet you. After that, they just see you as a normal person, as a friend, as someone they want to build a relationship with. And really, as long as you're at a good enough level where you can communicate, then mistakes here or there, or the quality of your Ukrainian, it really doesn't matter. It's what matters much more is whether you can, join in with a joke, or whether you tell an interesting story, or whether you ask them interesting questions. That's the stuff that matters. We're talking about actual, human communication, socializing, and all that stuff. So I think to the extent that alcohol helps you relax and just talk, it's fantastic, because it just gets us out of our head. A great analogy for this is jazz improvisation. I have a background in jazz. You may know that, and it's a common adage in jazz that you study improvisation. So you study harmony, you study chord progressions, the science of melody and all that stuff, rhythm. You study all that stuff so that when you come to actually play, you forget about all the practice and you can just improvise. All the hard work is done in the practice room in preparation for the moment where you play, you improvise, and you're just there to make music. Not to demonstrate your skills, but just to make music, pure and simple. And with languages, it's the same. I think we should be studying hard in our own time, but when it comes to actually socialize and be with real people, then you forget about all that stuff and you just concentrate on communicating. Because, all right, yeah, you may make mistakes and you may not know that grammar point yet and you may forget the odd word, but who cares? Because here's the thing, if you are spending regular time with people, communicating, socializing, using the language, that is by far the biggest win, because all of that exposure and time using the language brings so many more benefits long term. If you're out a few nights a week with these people, the amount of time you're going to spend listening to Ukrainian, the way that your reactions are going to speed up and you're going to get better at responding to things, the way that your body language is going to start adapting and becoming more natural to Ukrainian. All of these things are results of spending time with people. And at that point, people ask me often, like, okay, how do you get... I made a video once, actually, when I was talking about developing a good accent, and I did the video in Portuguese. And I was talking about the fact that, it doesn't come through study. It comes from just joining a community of people and spending time with them. Because when you do that, what happens is you just observe and you become more like them naturally. It's really the ideal situation, because in many respects, you can kind of stop studying as much. You just spend time with the people. Now, obviously, like the big caveat to this is you've got to be at a decent level in the first place. If you're still a beginner, then you can't join in with these group conversations. It's too hard. You've got to get to a kind of an intermediate level at least before you can start doing that. Immersion is only useful once you can cope with it. But before you can cope with the level, then immersion is often, immersion is not a good study technique or strategy, So, if you are a lower level, like Dave, I'm not sure how good your Ukrainian is. I know you speak fantastic Russian. I imagine by now your Ukrainian must be at least black belt. But, on that basis, if drinking makes you relax and you have more fun, then all day long. And I'm not encouraging you to drink here, but, well, actually I am, have fun with it. Like, go and just go with it. If you enjoy it, do it. That's what matters, because the language learning will follow then. But if you find that you have a different reaction, so when you drink, you find that you become more concerned about your language, or it has an adverse effect, well, in that case, it's not a good thing. So it kind of depends very much on the personal reaction that you have. But, for many people, let's not gloss over this. For many people, one of the biggest problems they have in using their language is nerves or social anxiety. And we've all experienced this. You want to go and speak to somebody, you want to go and practice your language, but you get really nervous before doing it, and you kind of clam up and you freeze up and you forget everything you've learned, and they speak to you in fast language and you panic. And this is a completely normal reaction, but it's a reaction nevertheless that is inside you and that you generate, right? you decide to become, or you are responsible for becoming nervous, whether it's voluntary or not. And I understand that it is usually involuntary. Of course it is, nervousness, right? It's involuntary, but it comes from you. Now, if when you drink alcohol, you get less nervous and you relax more, well, then you have, in one fell swoop, annihilated the one thing that is actually preventing you from practicing your languages in the first place. In other words, if when you drink, you don't get nervous and you talk more and you have longer conversations as a result, then that's probably a net positive. Now, I guess I should probably caveat all this by saying drink responsibly and, all the other stuff. But I think alcohol really does impact on some of the aspects of language learning that people find really hard. And so in that sense, I've certainly found, in most cases, when I go out and have some drinks, and my language learning, at least I think my language skills improve. And it's probably because I relax more and I'm just more concerned with the message. I'm more concerned with communicating with the person I'm talking to about real, normal, everyday things. And so I, personally, I love it. You probably guessed by now. But yeah, ultimately, you got to do what works well for you. Dave, you seem like the kind of guy who enjoys a drink and enjoys a bit of chatting in foreign languages. So I'm pretty sure I'm preaching to the choir here. But yeah, there you go. Those are my thoughts. I think really what we're going to have to do is put this to the test. So I'm going to have to come out to LA, and we are going to have to basically do a tour of all the different neighborhoods of LA. We'll get ourselves a driver so we can drink as much as we want, and then just go and practice a bunch of languages and see whether we think that we're doing it well or not. What do you think? Maybe we can arrange that for next year. All right, cheers, guys. Cheers in both senses. If you would like to ask me a question, you can go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/ask, where you can do that. And at the end of every episode, I like to leave you with a resource of some kind on the topic of the show. And I've got a great one for you today. It's an article, actually, that has been circulating around the interwebs recently. And it is called, "It's True, Alcohol Helps You Speak a Foreign Language Better." This is actually the title of the article. It's true, alcohol helps you speak a foreign language better. Subtitle, "People who drank a boozy beverage were more fluent than those who drank water." Right, now, if that doesn't make you want to go and read this article, then I don't know what will. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes, which you'll find at iwillteachyoualanguage.com/episode 229. That's iwillteachyoualanguage.com/episode 229. So go and check that out, but also come over to the show notes and let us know. Do you think that alcohol helps you speak a language better? I would really like to know your thoughts on this. Go over to the show notes, leave us a comment, see what other people are saying. And that's what I got for you. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode, and in case you didn't already know, I teach languages in a rather unusual way, through stories. Now, stories are a great way to learn a new language because when you're engrossed in a story, you remember things more easily, and the mechanics of the language just start clicking inside your brain. It's quite something, and if you'd like to find out how you can learn a new language or improve your skills in a language that you already know and do it with the power of stories, then you should check out my free Story Learning Kit, which will teach you exactly how this method works and how you can use it yourself to learn a new language. Visit storylearning.com/podkit, that's PODKIT, to get free access. Inside, you'll find explanatory videos, masterclasses, worksheets, short stories to practice with, and much, much more. Once again, that is storylearning.com/podkit, PODKIT, and if you're lucky, you might also find a link in the podcast description or show notes of this episode.